If you're an introvert, then headlines like these should concern you. From bias against us as leaders to structural issues preventing us from getting ahead. Let's face it, introverts are getting screwed at work. But being an introvert isn't the curse that it's often made out to be. Far from it. You're about to understand why it's actually a gift, and a gift that comes with amazing superpowers. Hi, my name is Raf, and I'm a massive introvert. Also, welcome to RISR, where my mission is to help you go further faster. Well, as you might have guessed from the intro, I'm going to talk about our introvert superpowers, how to use the most common ones most of us have, and develop new ones, including some that you might think you hate until you don't, and also reveal something that you should be doing every day if you aren't already. And I'm willing to bet that you can't guess what that is. Why don't you pop your best guess in the comments? Now, if you're one of those dirty, bloody extroverts, then no, actually you should stick around as well, because the fact is we know a whole lot more about you because you're literally everywhere. But here you'll learn to understand your introverted colleagues a little bit better, which will help you accelerate your careers also. Remember, the reality is that everybody's competing against everyone else. So the more you know about us, the better it is for you. Personally, I used to think that my introversion was some sort of deficiency, like a flaw that I needed to overcome, a sort of genetic defect. But I've since learned that us introverts actually possess special talents that can help us go further faster at work than the extroverts, if we discover what those talents are and how to use them properly. The big turning point for me was when I stopped thinking about myself as a bad extrovert and learned that my introversion could actually be an advantage. For one thing, it started to become obvious that I was able to do some things pretty easily that many extroverts seem to find challenging. And if you're a fellow introvert, you're more than likely to possess innate strengths that you too can leverage. So I'm going to first go through 5 superpowers that I think are foundational. These are going to take some time and practice to really master, but they're generally easier to start working on right away, and you should notice some huge changes pretty quickly. And then I'm going to touch on 5 more advanced superpowers that you need to know about and start practicing if you can, but these powers are next level and a little more challenging to get right. So let's get cracking with the foundational 5. And the first one is deep thinking. Albert Einstein, a self-confessed introvert, famously said,
"It's not that I'm so smart, it's just that I stay with problems longer."
That's just how he sounded, by the way. And this quote is testament to the introvert's innate ability to think deeply and analyze complex problems. Personally, I can sit alone for hours, a whole day, thinking through a problem or going deep into the weeds on a particular topic. The ability to detach and focus deeply on a problem is a skill that can be leveraged, for example, by taking on challenging projects and without getting easily distracted, providing elegant solutions or drawing connections between seemingly disparate things to understand how complex systems work, or even how to design them. So deep thinking, which really leads to problem solving, is an amazing superpower, but one that, like any superpower, will only be useful with hard work and practice. But the point here is that you're likely to find this stuff easier than your extroverted counterparts. In fact, the ability to stay with problems, problem solve, and cut through complexity is something that I use heavily because it helps me to add value to my organization. So definitely make sure that you practice this, but make sure you're using your time wisely and focused on thinking about issues or opportunities that are priorities, or you'll end up producing amazing, elegant solutions that don't really add any real value to your organization. Like I've done. More than once. If you want to learn how to prioritize so that you can focus on the big important stuff, then I've got other videos like this and this that can help you. Your second superpower is the ability to listen and empathize. Did you know that, contrary to popular belief, even though they're well known for their social skills and building relationships, that extroverts are not actually the best at listening and empathizing? I know. I'm just as shocked as you are. Yeah, it turns out that us introverts are actually pretty good natural listeners, which can make us effective at understanding and empathizing with our colleagues, our clients, and our stakeholders. And what does this do? Well, for one thing, it goes a long way to helping build trust, which is incredibly important for your career. Okay, that's all very well and good, but how exactly does that help you? Well, by using the strength to your advantage, you'll build stronger, more collaborative relationships at work. And by now, hopefully you're asking, well, how do I develop this natural superpower? Here are 5 things you can start practicing straight away. Number 1 is active listening, which means fully concentrating on what's being said rather than passively hearing the speaker's words. Paying attention, not interrupting, observing whatever you can from body language to tone of voice, proving that you're listening by nodding along, maintaining eye contact, and using small verbal affirmations like yes and aha and so on and so forth. What you're really after with active listening is the meaning behind the words. The second thing you can do is ask clarifying questions when you're unsure or if you want to dig deeper. Just remember that there's no such thing as a silly question, so go for it. Thirdly, you can summarize points to ensure that you understand, but also to let the other person know that you understand. This is also a way of doing something called mirroring, where you're kind of copying what the other person is saying, even if it's in your own words, which sends them a signal that you hear them and you value their thoughts. And it helps to build rapport, and as I've discovered, it's a really powerful tool to prompt them to expand on their thoughts or clarify points, which more often than not leads to a deeper conversation. But in addition to summarizing, of course, you also need to respond thoughtfully, with well thought out responses which will demonstrate that you've not only understood their point of view, but are able to verbally spar with them, back and forth. And finally, seek feedback to understand if there's anything important that you don't know or that you don't understand, or just to see if there's anything that you could be doing better or differently. Sounds like a lot to remember, I know, but it's really easy to get the hang of and easy to remember the more you practice. A good trick here is to write down these 5 elements, and then after an important conversation, you can refer back to your list and see what you might be able to improve on next time round. Best way to learn is to start doing it. And extroverts, I hope you were paying attention as well, because most of you have got quite a lot of work to do in the listening department, but seriously, you should find this even more useful for this exact reason. I'm moving along to superpower number 3, creativity and innovation. Think Elon Musk, Larry Page, Tim Cook, Brian Chesky, all introverts who demonstrate that we often possess a strong creative streak, which can be used to develop groundbreaking innovations. Studies show that introverts and extroverts are actually equal in terms of standard intelligence or IQ overall, but the interesting thing is that statistics also show 75% of gifted people are introverts. So it means that when we introverts put our talents to the test, we'd rarely outgun our extroverted colleagues by 3-1. Even more impressive when you consider that extroverts outnumber introverts according to most studies. So, what does this mean for you? Firstly, I highly recommend that you prepare in advance. Before meetings or discussions, prepare your ideas and thoughts, which can include writing a few notes or creating a quick outline of what you want to share, which you can then refer to at an appropriate time, with confidence, even on the fly. Secondly, take some of the pressure off by starting small and sharing your ideas in less intimidating settings, such as during one-on-one meetings or in small group discussions before moving on to any larger groups. Thirdly, and this is one that I personally love, if you can, then find an ally. Identify a colleague who's well respected and who you think is willing to support you. This person can bring you into conversations, and they can also advocate for your ideas when you share them. Just make sure that this is someone that you know you can trust, so that over time, you can start to safely share your brilliant ideas without worrying about them stealing them as their own. Been there, done that, and trust me, you'll regret handing someone your best idea before you know you can really, truly trust them. Okay, number 4 has to be focus and attention to detail. Warren Buffett, who many consider to be the world's greatest investor, spends a lot of time just sitting, reading, and thinking, which helps him avoid making impulse decisions. As I mentioned a few minutes ago, introverts are well known for our ability to concentrate and maintain focus on tasks for extended periods, blocking out all sorts of distractions. Half the time when I'm planning out these YouTube episodes, there's a very large TV with a very large speaker about 3 feet away from my head blasting K-pop or something else at a fairly high volume, and most of the time it really doesn't bother me in the least because I can still get into the zone and focus on what I'm doing quite easily. By learning how to really focus in this way, you'll be able to spend time deep thinking, superpower number 1, but you'll also find that you acquire skills and gain knowledge more quickly, and it'll also help your output in delivering complex work with minimal mistakes. Like in my previous episode, where despite having 135 decibels of New Jeans Super Shy blasted in my right ear, I was able to create a system for how to stay calm at work. Check it out. Now, if you want to start honing the focus superpower, I can suggest start by being clear and specific on what it is that you want to achieve, which will help get you into what's called the attention zone. And then, if you find you're still struggling to focus, you can try breaking tasks into smaller steps and focus on just one step at a time. And if you find you're focusing well, but then you start to lose concentration after a while, then you can try taking some short, timed breaks. I mean like 5 minutes, and then get straight back into it. Some people find that techniques like the Pomodoro technique, involving 30-minute cycles where you work for 25 minutes and then break for 5 minutes, that works for them. But personally, if I'm in the zone, I don't want to be disturbed at all. So experiment and find what works best for you. Superpower number 5, strong written communication skills. As it turns out, because of our preference for solitary work, our comfort with non-verbal communication, and our reflective nature, most of us introverts tend to have an affinity for written communication, particularly valuable in today's digital workplace. Now, this one isn't necessarily an innate skill, but it does tend to suit us really well, so why not use this to your advantage? I mean, if you already have a natural ability to, for example, understand and simplify a complex topic, then being able to take the extra step and communicate that, as you can imagine, is the other half of the battle, or the other half of the superpower. So, where do you start? Well, apart from the obvious, which is to continuously improve your skill level by learning about different types and formats of writing, by reading, by taking courses, attending workshops, and just learning generally, you can also look around for opportunities at work and put your hand up for tasks that will help gain you visibility and recognition, such as preparing proposals, creating marketing content, or developing training materials. And you might also want to offer to edit or review somebody else's work, which not only helps them and can help build professional relationships, but also showcases your skills and can gain your respect in the process. Remote work has made written communication even more valuable than it used to be, and today you'd be surprised at how much demand there is for strong writing skills and how many doors this superpower can open for career advancement. So now that we've covered the foundational 5, whether you're an introvert or an extrovert, let us know if any of these resonated with you. And are there any others that seem to come even more naturally to you? And specifically for the extroverts, let us know what you learned and how you're going to use these insights to your advantage. Now we're going to move on to the Power 5. As I mentioned at the start, these are advanced powers that play to the strengths of introverts. Superpower number 6 is time management. Now, I've already talked about this one quite a bit on this channel, so I'm not going to go into any great detail, except to say that us introverts already have a bit of an advantage here because we need to be alone to recharge, so in a strange way, we already have this kind of ability to manage our time and energy. But having said that, there are some really useful techniques that will allow you to master the art of prioritizing trade-offs between your various tasks. Not only is this an important skill for everyone to learn, but it's likely that you as an introvert will get really good at this one really quickly. So why not? Now, if you want to learn more, you can check out my video on the Eisenhower time management matrix. Number 7, network like a pro, even if you hate it. Although networking might not come naturally to you and might be the furthest thing from what you think you're comfortable with, developing this skill can seriously open doors to new opportunities and connections. Now, does that mean you have to constantly be going to big events and interacting with large groups of people? Absolutely not. And don't be the least bit envious of those extroverts who can rarely work a room. Instead, just focus on building deeper one-on-one relationships with fewer people, and you'll build a really strong network that way. And you can also use online networking. My preferred platform is LinkedIn, but you've got all sorts of other options like X, and industry-specific forums where you can connect with like-minded professionals and expand your network without the pressure of heavy social interactions. If you want to learn more about networking, especially networking as an introvert, then look out for a future episode where I explore networking for introverts in a lot more detail. And number 8, here's another one you might think you hate, but that you can also master. It's the art of self-promotion. Staying away from the spotlight and downplaying my achievements used to be home base for me. I figured that if I just went about my business and I achieved outstanding results, that people would just notice and I'd be rewarded in kind. But I found out the hard way. This was a one-way ticket to Nowhereville. So, firstly, find ways to share your successes, for example, by sending regular project updates, talking about your wins in your one-on-ones, or preparing extra well so that you can highlight your accomplishments in a performance review. Use your thoughtfulness and your creativity to create a unique personal brand that showcases your expertise and values. For example, by sharing your knowledge through blog posts, presentations, or social media. And thirdly, do you have a champion? Someone senior, 2 steps above you. Someone who believes in you and would literally go into bat for you. Recommend you for a promotion. I'm curious how many of you might already have a champion. Let me know in the comments. Now, this one might take a little more time, but a champion can be an introvert's best friend at work. More to come on this topic, but some food for thought for now. And number 9 is to learn the art of leadership. Many of us introverts are great at working independently, and developing team management and delegation skills can seem really unnatural at first. But developing a few key skills such as assertiveness, persuasion, and public speaking really do make all the difference. And you'll find that by combining these new skills with those other skills that come more naturally that we've just discussed, there's literally nothing stopping you from becoming a fantastic leader. Now, leadership is a massive topic, and I'm not even going to touch the sides here, but what I want to get across is that us introverts really can match the extroverts when it comes to leadership. Of course, we do it in our own way, but there's plenty of research out there to show that, amongst other things, introverted leaders drive more innovation, last longer in senior roles, and are preferred by employees. And last, but by no means least, master resilience in the face of challenges. Us introverts tend to be inward-looking and very self-reflective, which can actually be as much of a liability as an asset. But did you know that you can actually use this to your advantage by seeking feedback and learning from constructive criticism, which will help you learn and grow and become more resilient in the face of future setbacks? We also have a unique ability to connect with others on a deeper level thanks to our empathetic nature. So if we proactively seek that feedback, it's likely to be really valuable. And resilience also involves taking care of ourselves, physically, mentally, and emotionally. So as introverts, it's important to also set boundaries and prioritize our own self-care to maintain our personal energy and well-being. Which leads nicely into something that I mentioned at the start of this video that you're probably not doing, but that you really should be doing every single day. Now, for those of you that did try and guess what that was, the moment of truth has arrived. And consider this a bonus tip. Okay, this is purely my own opinion, but the one thing that I think you should be doing every single day is dedicated reflection time. Hear me out. Reflection time helps me a lot. I mean a lot. When I unplug from work, I find myself connecting the dots between seemingly unrelated things, I find myself coming up with ideas and solutions, and I find myself decompressing, which means relaxing and unwinding, which is really useful as an introvert after heavy engagement during a workday. Reflection time doesn't necessarily have to be a long time. Finding 5 minutes between meetings, going for a walk at lunchtime, pretty much does it for me. And I find it not only energizing, but I usually come back to my work with a head full of ideas and an abundance of energy and mental clarity, and often a fresh perspective. As I always say, find what works best for you, but I highly recommend incorporating regular, dedicated reflection time and let the strong introvert back in. With the right mindset and strategies and the 10 superpowers we just discussed, you can become an unstoppable force. But I'm afraid that I've got some terribly sad news for you, and that's because there's something massive that you're probably still missing, and that's how to get your voice heard and command the same level of respect as the extroverts who usually steal the spotlight and the promotions. Sound interesting? Then, after hitting like, subscribing, and pressing that notification bell, you can follow the link here or at the very end to learn more, and don't forget to share this episode with a friend or colleague, helping them to go further faster as well. Till next time, keep rising.